They shimmer like gems, like drops of molten sapphire, emerald or blazing gold, nestled in the wet green of tropical rainforest leaves. They're the size of a paper clip, weigh less than a handful of paper, and yet, every inch of their skin is a death sentence. The poisonous dart frogs, among the most vividly colored animals on Earth, are also some of the most toxic. One species, Phyllobates terribilis, carries enough poison to kill 10 grown men with a single dose. No fangs, no venom, no bite. Just a touch, one brush of skin, one accidental graze, and it could all be over in minutes. How can something so beautiful be so deadly? Why would evolution craft a creature so small, so bright, so perilous, and perhaps even more mystifying? How do these frogs avoid killing themselves with their own chemistry? For centuries, they were a mystery. Local indigenous groups in Colombia knew their power. They used the frog's skin secretions to coat blow darts, a single weapon made lethal by the amphibian skin. But modern science is just beginning to unravel how their deadly cocktail works, how it evolved, and how it turns their bodies into one of nature's most perfect biological weapons. So how do poisonous dart frogs produce toxins strong enough to drop a jaguar? How did they evolve their bright colors without inviting their extinction? And how can a creature that doesn't even make its own poison still become the most feared animal in the forest? Let's venture deep into the damp, pulsating heart of the jungle and uncover the insane biology of the poisonous dart frog. What makes a frog poisonous? Not all frogs are dangerous. In fact, out of over 7,000 known frog species, only a few dozen are toxic. But those that are lethal beyond belief. The most famous group is the Dendrobatidae family, the so-called poison dart frogs, native to Central and South America. Among them, the golden poison frog is the deadliest. A single frog carries about 1,100 micrograms of batrachotoxin in their skin, just 2 micrograms of which is enough to kill a human. That's 50 times more lethal than the venom of a black widow spider, and more potent than cura, strychnine, and cyanide. But what exactly is batrachotoxin? It's a steroidal alkaloid, a molecule that targets the voltage gate sodium channels in the nerve and muscle cells. Normally, these channels open and close to let ions through, triggering electrical signals for things like movement and breathing. Batrachotoxin binds to these channels, prying them open and locking them there. This causes muscles to contract uncontrollably and never relax, eventually stopping the heart and diaphragm. The victim suffocates, fully paralyzed and unable to even blink. Unlike venom, which must be injected through fangs or stingers, this toxin is absorbed directly through skin or mucous membranes. Touch it, and it's already inside you. But here's the twist. These frogs don't actually produce the toxins themselves. You are what you eat. The batrachotoxin isn't manufactured by the frog cells. Instead, it comes from their diet. Wild poisonous dart frogs feed on certain arthropods, primarily ants, beetles, and mites that contain precursor alkaloids. Over generations, the frogs have evolved a unique metabolic pathway that allows them to sequester these toxic molecules and store them in their skin glands without breaking them down or dying from exposure. Captive-bred dart frogs, raised on crickets and fruit flies, are completely harmless. They lose their toxicity within a generation when deprived from their wild insect diet. This discovery led to a surprising revelation. The frogs are more like living chemical sponges than venom factories. The exact source of the batrachotoxin in the wild remains mysterious. One leading theory points to a genus of beetles called corazine, found in the jungles of Colombia and New Guinea, areas where both frogs and toxic birds like the pitatouille are known to carry similar toxins. This suggests that toxins may originate from a shared ecological niche, a web of interconnected chemical warfare spread across species, environments, and evolutionary lineages. And yet, the frogs remain the undisputed masters of weaponizing it. Aposematism and warning signals. Why don't poisonous dart frogs hide in the shadows? Why do they particularly glow in neon, orange, electric blue, and fire engine red? The answer is a powerful evolutionary strategy called aposematism. Unlike camouflage, which hides an animal from predators, aposematism shouts, "I'm dangerous, stay away." The colors are a biological billboard, honed over millions of years to be as conspicuous as possible. Experiments confirm this. In one study, birds were offered colored models of frogs, some bright and others dull. After tasting one of the toxic models, they quickly learned to avoid any frog with similar coloration, even if it wasn't toxic at all. This is the brilliance of warning coloration. It trains predators to avoid you before they even try. Over time, this reduces attacks, giving bright frogs a survival advantage. The brighter the frog, the more likely it is to live and pass on its genes. And from the Dendrodatidae family, color evolution has exploded. Over 200 species have diversified into a kaleidoscope of patterns, each signaling a unique chemical cocktail. But it goes deeper. Some dart frogs mimic the warning patterns of other species, even if they produce weaker toxins, a behavior called Müllerian mimicry. Others, with no toxins at all, intimidate the appearance of deadly species to ride the coattails of their protection, a clever tactic called Batesian mimicry. In the forest, color is currency, and in the dart frog's case, the more flamboyant, the better. Self-immunity secrets. But here lies the most mind-blowing question of all. How do poisonous dart frogs avoid poisoning themselves? Batrachotoxin should shut down their own nerves and muscles. Yet they hop, breathe, hunt, and mate as if the toxin didn't exist. The answer, once again, is molecular ingenuity. Recent research uncovered that the dart frogs have evolved small mutations in their sodium channel genes, specifically the SCN4A gene. These mutations slightly alter the shape of the channel protein, preventing batrachotoxin from binding without disrupting the channel's essential function. This is no small feat. These channels are fundamental to life. Changing them risks disrupting the basic electrical flow in the body. But the frogs have pulled off a precise biochemical balancing act, modifying just enough to block the toxin, but not so much that it compromises nerve function. What's more, this trait appears to have evolved multiple times independently in different dart frog lineages, a stunning example of convergent evolution. Evolution has run the same molecular hack over and over again in different frog species, always reaching the same solution. They're not just immune, they've rewritten the rules to their own biology. Reproduction, rarity, and parental care. In the damp cathedral of the rainforest, the poisonous dart frog is not just a chemist and a colorist. It is also, surprisingly, a caregiver. Unlike most amphibians, which lay their eggs and leave them to fate, many species of dart frogs take parenting to extraordinary levels of devotion. Male dart frogs, yes, the fathers, play the central role. After an elaborate courtship that may involve gentle calls, physical nudges, and even a sort of dance, the female lays her eggs in the moist leaf litter. The male fertilizes them externally, but his job has just begun. He guards the eggs, keeping them moist by periodically urinating on them. This may sound crude, but it's a vital service in a forest where eggs can dry out in hours. He removes fungus-infected and non-viable eggs, grooming the clutch with his tongue. And then, when the tadpoles are ready to hatch, something extraordinary happens. He gently coaxes a single tadpole on his back and carries it, sometimes for hours, through the forest, climbing up trees, hopping across logs, and descending cliffs in search of a safe nursery, a tiny pool of water trapped in a biolid or a tree hole. Then he returns, again and again, until every tadpole is delivered. In the species known as strawberry poison frog, the mother gets involved later, laying unfertilized nurse eggs directly to the tadpole's pool to feed it. This parental provisioning can go on for weeks, and each tadpole may require over 30 feedings before metamorphosis. This level of care is vanishingly rare in amphibians, and it makes the poisonous dart frog not just a killer, but a nurturer of the highest order. Cognition and behavior. So, are these tiny frogs just instinct-driven machines? Or is there something more happening beneath the surface? Amphibians are not typically known for cognitive complexity, but dart frogs may be the exception. Their elaborate mating rituals, territory defense, navigation through dense forests, and parental care all suggest a level of spatial memory and decision-making unusual for frogs. In one experiment, male frogs were tested for their ability to remember the location of multiple tadpole deposition sites. Researchers discovered that the males could recall and distinguish between up to 5 different pools and chose unoccupied and low-risk ones for each tadpole. That's not random hopping. That's memory and spatial learning. They also communicate using a rich palette of calls. Males sing from exposed perches to attract mates in established territory. Some species use vocalizations that are unique to individuals, suggesting a level of acoustic recognition akin to that seen in birds. Their behaviors hint at a simple but refined form of amphibian intelligence, enough to assess threats, navigate terrain, and make nuanced choices in their small, toxic world. An evolutionary tale. The origin story of the poisonous dart frog is as complex as their colors. Molecular data places their ancestors in South America over 40 million years ago, likely as nondescript, dabbed skin frogs. Back then, the continent was home to an expanding rainforest biodome, brimming with arthropod diversity. As new prey emerged with novel toxins, some frogs began to eat them and survive. Over millennia, those that could sequester toxins gained a survival advantage. At first, they were probably mildly toxic, relying on camouflage. But once aposematism kicked in, bright coloration paired with toxicity, a new evolutionary arms race began. Brighter colors meant fewer attacks, so more colorful individuals survived to breed. Those available to process even more toxic insects became even more feared. Diversification exploded. Today, the Dendrodatabae family contains over 200 species, some barely toxic at all, others dripping in molecular death. And surprisingly, this chemical arms race didn't just stay within frogs. Birds in New Guinea evolved similar toxins, possibly with similar diets, in a completely different part of the world. It's another example of nature arriving at the same deadly solution, independently. Predator versus poison. Despite their colors, not every predator stays away. Some dare to challenge the dart frog's defense, and some even win. A tiny snake in Colombia, the Lepidopus elenphilus, a tiny snake from Colombia, is the only natural predator of the golden poison frog. This snake has developed a resistance to batrachotoxin, though how is still being studied. It represents the other side of the evolutionary coin, predators adapting to poisons in order to unlock a powerful food source. But even this snake doesn't go after every dart frog. Only the most toxic ones seem worth the risk, perhaps because of their higher fat content or nutritional payoff. Other predators, like spiders or large birds, often make the mistake once and never again. Interestingly, some harmless species of frogs, like the alibites, have evolved to live alongside poisonous dart frogs and mimic their warning colors. These imposters fool predators into leaving them alone, piggybacking off the toxic neighbor's reputation without spending the energy to acquire real toxins. In the jungle ecosystem, the battle isn't just physical, it's visual, chemical, and deeply strategic. Conversion and collapse. As mesmerizing as they are, poisonous dart frogs are also vanishing fast. Deforestation in the Amazon and the rainforest have slashed their habitats. Mining, logging, and agricultural fragment their fragile ecosystems, isolating frog populations and disrupting the delicate insect-frog relationship necessary for toxin accumulation. Climate change also adds another layer of crisis. Rising temperatures alter rainforest patterns, drying up tadpole nurseries and disrupting breeding seasons. Diseases like chytrid fungus, which attacks amphibian skin, have devastated frog populations worldwide, and the dart frogs are no exception. The illegal pet trade is also another threat. Some of the most stunning dart frogs, like the blue Dendrodatabae tentreus, are smuggled and sold for high prices, despite conversion protections. But hope is not lost. Conservationist and indigenous groups are working together to protect frogs and forests. Captive breeding programs, educational campaigns, and legal protections are slowly turning the tide, and the frogs themselves are becoming symbols of the rainforest. Tiny ambassadors with dazzling skin and deadly secrets, rallying support for the ecosystems they call home. The mirror of toxic perfection. In the story of the poisonous dart frog, we find a paradox. How can something so beautiful be so lethal? How can a creature so small command such power? How can life evolve a jewel that kills? Their biology is a masterpiece of molecular engineering, evolutionary pressure, and ecological balance. They do not sting or strike. They do not chase or bite. They merely are. They exist as a warning, as lessons, as bright reminders that the rainforest is a place where survival is both art and war. In the shine of their skin, we see nature's raw creativity and cold calculus. In their parenting, we see care. In their immunity, we see genius. And in their decline, we see our responsibility. The poisonous dart frog is not just a frog. It's a symbol, a living contradiction, a whisper in the rainforest that beauty, intelligence, danger, and fragility can all live inside a single, trembling heartbeat. If we lose them, we lose more than a species. We lose a miracle. That was the biology and the anatomy of the poisonous dart frog.